Welcome, Warriors, back with another episode of Vigor Warriors 2. And I decided to get up early this morning. This is about 3:30 in the morning, so I wanted to get some things done. And so there's a few videos I want to kind of make, so I'm going to kind of do those this morning. And so once again, thank you for all the comments. Thank you for all the likes and subscriptions. I hope what we're doing is providing you information about health, wealth, and spiritual types of things, and getting better. And I'm glad to kind of get to all age groups. I focus on obviously my age group, but I think it's important now to kind of do that with all age groups. And so I'm gonna do that more often. So I appreciate the comments and feedback you guys are giving me. So today's episode we're going to talk about is being alone. And is that good or bad? And I will put a question mark at the title. So once again, subscribe, like, comment, and let's get on with the show. So the idea of being alone is something that, scares a lot of people. And I think probably women more than men. And I think a lot of that is more conditioning types of things. If you go back to the cavewoman days, you're talking about, that people don't want to necessarily be alone. And there's a huge fear of being alone, especially if you're getting, older and you're sick and those type of things. And so a lot of people have a great fear of being alone. And so what ends up happening is it makes them really value other people more, especially as they get older. And so as you focus on this, one of the things that's a key thing to realize is that a lot of that fear then ends up dictating their relationships with other people. You'll see this a lot with relatives and people you have. They may get into a syndrome where they, as they get older, they become more of a victim. And I'm not saying that's something that they do purposely, and I'm not saying that they're not need to be taken care of. But the idea is that the mentality is that the younger should take care of the older as they get older. Sometimes people take advantage of that, and I've seen that happen a lot. And so you end up having people who really are so afraid of being alone that they almost kind of out of obligation force their relatives to take care of them. And that just creates a lot of negative types of conflicts and things within the family. And so you don't never want to get into that kind of situation. But it goes back to that fear that people have of not having somebody with them. And if they're not a person that they like themselves, and they're not a person that they actually can get along with themselves, and so then others stay away from them as well, well, then all of a sudden, no one really wants to come visit that person. And you see that happen a lot, unfortunately. I used to give communion to one of the hospitals in my area here, and I used to see a lot of people in the hospital that were older, in their 50s, 60s, and 70s, and no one came to visit them. And I thought that was the saddest thing that I'd ever seen. But what happens is that people tend to, as time goes on, alienate people, or people choose not to want to go visit. And I can understand the hospital situation. Some people don't really want to go visit a hospital. But I think people have the same type of thing being alone at home. And I think with the whole situation we've had recently over the last year and a half, that situation has been exacerbated as well. So the thing about it is that people really fear this type of thing. Now, is that fear something that should be a fear? I believe that it's not. And let me kind of give you some reasons why I believe it's not. I think you really should not be afraid to be alone, because I think being alone means that you basically are now trying to figure out what life is about. You're trying to kind of work on yourself, and you're trying to connect with your creator, in this case, in my case, the Lord, trying to be strong and kind of have a connection. And this is where retention, brahmacharya, celibacy, all these things that we're talking about, which is kind of the same concept for the most part, in my mind at least, come from. Because once you're on your goal, once you're on your retention, and once you're focusing on different things and just focusing on chasing men and women around, then what you're basically doing is trying to enrich yourself, better yourself within, and get closer to a situation in which you're stronger and your faith becomes stronger, and now you don't need all these other people around you. And I think that's the key. That's a key, because I think that if you're the kind of person that can be happy living and doing things by yourself, you tend to attract a lot more people coming towards you. It attracts people because you're being yourself. You're being natural. You're not being desperate. People who are afraid of being alone tend to be, very desperate, and then they act that way, and so they really feel they need someone. And so, obviously, in a family situation, people feel obligated to that. But if you're not in a family situation, you still have the type of thing that you're looking at, being desperate, and people move away from that. They push back on that, and they basically kind of run away from that type of situation, because no one really wants somebody that's going to be kind of leaning on them and desperate in that situation. So the whole idea of being fearful of being alone creates a lot of negative behaviors with people, and it really should not be a fear like that. And now, what people are also afraid of is they're afraid of passing on and dying when they're younger as well. Not when they're younger, but they're alone, right? And so as they look at this, they not only fear being alone, but then fear that no one's there in case something happens to them. And obviously, from a practical standpoint, that is a concern, especially as people get older. But the idea again is that you have, within you that type of strength, but you can't realize that strength until you really kind of get to the heart of who you are. And I believe that starts with that self-control and that retention. I think as you do things like meditation, prayer, and fasting, and retention, all these type of things that you can do to better yourself, and exercise certainly, and all these things, and read and continue to cultivate yourself no matter what age you're at. I think you're able then to kind of bring all those forces together, and you're able to not feel alone. And you should not feel alone. I mean, a lot of us, most of us are made of water, right? We also have people within us, our spirit types of things that I think are strengths. So people around us and within us, and I call within us, I'm talking about the Lord, that gives us that kind of strength, and that allows us to be able to be strong in those situations. The bottom line, guys, and I think the Egyptians and all the people through history found this out. You can have all the treasure in the world, but and they can bury it with you, but it makes no difference. And we all know that we're focusing in physics laws here, and the physics laws talk about the fact that you cannot destroy matter and energy. You can recreate it, or you can move it somewhere else and transfer it. And so I think basically the idea that you can take money, you can take things with you, is false in my opinion. I think what you end up doing is your energy transfers to something else, and I've seen that happen when people have passed away. I've seen things, kind of go up in the air, something, and happens, and so it seems to me obviously that something is leaving your body, and so I believe that's the spirit, myself, and the soul. But that's my personal opinion. But I think obviously the idea here that you want to kind of look at is that you should not be afraid of being alone, right? You should not be at the point of having a fear of dying alone. I think those type of things create a lot of negative situations. And once again, it's a self-fulfilling expectation or a self-fulfilling prophecy. Those type of things happening, all of a sudden, now you're thinking in those terms. And so here again, being on your purpose program, there's things you want to accomplish. And like I said, I have friends in different parts of the world that, in their 80s and 90s, and they're still accomplishing goals. And, they're going to continue to accomplish their goals until the last day they're on the earth. And that's the way I believe human beings should be. I think we should all be creative, continue to create, and continue to be the best person we can be. And I think when we're focusing too much on ourselves, and we're not focusing enough on creating and helping others and doing things for others, well, then we're not as much of a success as we should be. And I think as a result of that, then people end up kind of being fearful and looking within instead of looking without. I think that's the other thing, is that you eliminate a lot of those kind of fears by you eliminate a lot of those fears by kind of helping other people and having a purpose and a goal, and to become the best version of yourself. And and I'm kind of referring to a lot of people in this one that's older. Certainly, when you're younger, you don't have that kind of fear of dying, because you're young. I mean, a lot of us feel like we want to live forever at the time we're 20 and 30 years old. So in many cases, I'm talking in this case for people being alone. But people who are younger, I think we also tend to kind of look at being alone as something that we don't like and we're afraid of. We don't want to be rejected. We don't want to have people not like us. We don't want to have people not not going with us parties, and we always feel like, well, I don't have a date, or I don't have friends, those type of things, and we feel bad about that. But I would say to you that I think that's part of the mental problem we go through when those things happen. You really have to kind of look and say, okay, I am going to not be upset that I'm by myself for a period of time, because in the long run, you're always by yourself. Yes, you may have people around you, but you have to be happy with who you are. You have to be comfortable in your own shoes, and if you're comfortable with your own shoes, well, then you're also comfortable then around other people. Once again, if you like yourself, you'll like other people, and people will like you too. And all of a sudden, now you have become more of high value because you value yourself. And that old axiom is always true, is what you think about yourself is what really comes true. And I know, because I went through some negative times in the past, okay? So, and that creates also a lot of these kind of fears as well. So you really should not be scared of anything, let alone being alone. All right, so enough of this one. And until next time, battle the warriors, battle on.